for the viewers that don't know about your show on YouTube, can you discuss a little bit about what Bright Suns Films is?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it since 2012. I created the channel in 2012, and I don't know. I've always had a sort of a fascination with telling the story of abandoned places. And at the time, back in 2014, is when I started the series. No one else had really sort of brought together the information across the internet into a sort of a documentary style show. So I sort of took that upon myself, and I'm a huge fan of like abandoned theme parks and stuff. So I started the series with that, and it's sort of grown since. But yeah, I sort of take the idea of sort of bringing together all types of information on topics that people may not have ever thought they may find interesting, and you know, yeah,
Well,
some people do. Yeah.
so what makes you want to dive into all these different abandoned areas?
Well, I mean, theme parks were the first. That River Country was actually the first location that actually piqued my interest, and that's why I created the series to begin with. I started with Discovery Island, and then later down the line, I did River Country. But I think the idea of abandoned places is, I don't know, it's just a fascinating thing to me. So I think abandoned businesses, abandoned malls. I've done all types of things. I think they all sort of piqued my interest the more I researched. When I started doing Circuit City, Bradley's, they all sort of take on this incredible role of being just this enormous corporation and company that had failed. And that's sort of in the same vein as, River Country or something, where it's almost too big to fail. And then when they do, it's this bizarre thing in our world that, it's these abandoned places, which so many people loved. And I think the companies sort of take on the same idea of that. So, I mean, like you said, I've been interested in abandoned places for a while, but I guess my interest in things has sort of broadened, and I guess I have a lust for failure in the world. I don't know.
Well, as long as you're not failing, that's the positive thing, right?
Yeah, that's it. As long as I don't do a
Everything else
video on
who cares?
myself, we should be fine.
How long does it take you to put up a video, do all that research and all the production aspects that go to make it a good YouTube video that people want to watch?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while. For instance, right now I'm doing a video on Kodak, and for some reason this one's extremely daunting because I'm not usually with topics that I do, I'm educated in the company or the location to some extent before I start the video. But with Kodak, I don't really have a great understanding of the company. So this time, with the help of a colleague of mine, we sort of both went into this and did a bunch of research, going through newspapers.com and New York Times and all these different sources of media, and then putting them together in a research document, then taking that research document, making it into a coherent script. And that goes into my recording, and then I cut it up and then start bringing in all the media that's relevant to the script, and we build a video from there. And right now I'm just I just finished all the media yesterday, so I'm getting there, but it takes a while. It's Kodak so far. I'm doing a Bankrupt episode on Kodak, and so far I'm about 2 weeks into it. So this one's extremely daunting, but some videos are easier, like the River Country one I just did. Despite it being my longest episode, I came into the episode with a pre-established knowledge, so it was a little easier for me to sort of just go through all the research and sort of put it onto a page fairly quickly. So yeah, it depends, but it can be daunting. It's typically a one-man show with me, so
Tough. I understand.
Yeah.
So this is Jake Williams for everybody that just came into the program. Jake Williams, and he does Bright Sun Films. You can check him out on YouTube, and it's a real great site for things that have been abandoned. And also, I'm going to talk about in a minute his new movie or new production, whatever you'd like to call it, that he's putting out. We're going to discuss that in just a second. So, Jake, let's talk about this. And we did, we kind of talked about the production aspect of the videos that you put out just now.
Right.
With that, where do you get your videos? Is it mainly, you ask the viewers, hey, what do you want to hear next? Or a viewer DMs you and says, hey, I want to hear about this thing that went out of business 20, 30, 50 years ago, or this ship that may have sunk, whatever it may be? Or do you mainly just, attack things that you're interested in and, more so as that way?
Yeah, typically it is what I find interesting. You
Mhm.
mentioned the shipwreck, and
Right.
I sort of go through my 14-year-old knowledge of like what was I interested in when I was 12, and I was like the American Star, perfect. So that became a video, and a lot of other people I'm sure had a similar experience, and that's why the videos did so well. But for instance, like Kodak,
Yeah.
my parents have been nagging me to do Kodak for the past 8 months, so I'm finally doing it for them. So it's all over the place. Of course, I ask Twitter every once in a while, and everyone
Yeah.
gives me a great list of responses. And one of them was Planet Hollywood, and I
Right.
thought, oh, that's a great idea. So I ended up doing that one. And then, for instance, like River Country, what I'm doing is I sort of go back through my catalog of videos, and I distinguish which ones I could probably do a better job in with the knowledge I have, a couple years
Right.
later. So, yeah, it comes from all different places, but I think regardless of what the topic is, people are going to find it noteworthy. I would think, at least.
Where did you get the idea for this movie? A lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm in the Orlando area, so I know a lot about the theme parks in Orlando and Tampa
Hmm.
with Busch Gardens. But a lot of people that aren't from New Orleans, aren't from, that area of the country as far as the Southeast, may not know about Six Flags New Orleans, that was even a thing. So what
Yeah.
made you want to produce this film? And also, where did you get that idea for producing a film on something that a lot of people may not know about?
Yeah, well, Six Flags New Orleans, formerly of Jazzland, it was something that was obviously destroyed in Katrina when that came through in 2005, and I think a lot of people in the urbex or urban exploring community, they've known about it. It's a hotter topic to go to, um, but unless you're really not an enthusiast in that, you might not know about it. And a lot of people I talk to about this location, they don't really know about it. So, but of course I did. And a gentleman by the name of Charlie reached out to me in, God, was it early or mid 2018? And he had emailed me saying, "Hey, Jake, we have this place out here, the Six Flags New Orleans. It's abandoned, and a friend of mine, Tanya, she's trying to redevelop it, and we might be able to get you access into the property." So I
Mm.
said, "Well, that's awesome." And my buddy Brennan, I told him, and we were both very excited because that's like the golden goose of of urbex spots. We would always love to get into it, obviously.
Right.
So months passed, and back and forth. Maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. And ended up not happening with Charlie. However, he sort of sparked the idea of like, well, if we can get into this park and do it legally and not break in and everything, it's like, well, we could bring cinema cameras in, we could get a tripod, we can do all this crazy stuff. We can make this into a really interesting project, a really cool documentary, maybe
Right.
something a little higher level than what I normally do on the channel. So that sparked my idea, and you know, spending 6 or 7 months down the pipeline trying to figure out what the best way to go about this is and how if it even is possible. So I reached out to the city, and there are filming permits in New Orleans, and the property is owned by the Industrial Development Board. And they rent it out to productions like Jurassic World was filmed there,
Right.
Deepwater Horizon, productions like that. So I said, I reached out to the lady there, and I submitted an early, very rudimentary proposal for a film that I wanted to call Closed for Storm. And it was approved by their administrator, to my surprise, and then we got the price for the permits. I was like, oh god, this is so expensive, but I'm too deep in it now. I have to go through. So yeah, I committed all the way, and Close for Storm was born, and we filmed in June of 2019 finally, and went back for interviews in September, and then again in January for B-roll, and our film was finished. Yeah,
So you
we got.
spoke about, oh, sorry to interrupt you, Jake. So
No,
you
go ahead.
spoke about the financials with the film and,
Yeah.
you know, having to go over there, and you had to fly back and forth from Toronto to
Yeah, not
there,
cheap.
and yeah, for like twice, right? Correct? You went there 2 or 3 times, correct?
I went to New Orleans 3 times.
Yeah.
2 of them I drove. So I
Oh
drove about
wow.
22 hours one way to New Orleans twice. So there
Well,
and
the
back.
financial aspect of going down there, paying the permit,
Yeah.
driving, flying, wherever it may be, that adds up. So, did you raise money, or did you have to pay that out of your own pocket? How did all that go?
Yeah, I think early on we had discussed doing a Kickstarter. I was very against that, and we ultimately decided not to do that because I didn't. This is my first film, so I don't want to feel like people are donating to a project that they're uncertain of how it's going to turn out, and I really don't want to disappoint people with it. So
Hmm.
I held back on it, and I decided just to invest my own money. So I spent probably about 35 to $45,000 on it. So it
Wow.
was significant. We spent a lot of money on making this, but I probably won't ever see that money back. However, I think it was a passion project to begin with, and I wanted to prove that I can make a documentary to this caliber, and I think we succeeded. I think we did pretty well.
Well, I want to talk about this. Can you tell people that don't know much about, and you kind of, led into it a little bit in the last answer, but with Six Flags New Orleans, can you tell a little bit of the backstory without giving the whole movie away
Yeah.
about, you know, how it came about? I know there was a theme park previously in New Orleans, and that was kind of shelved in, what was it, the 60s or the 70s? You would know more about it than me, of course, but
Yeah,
if you could just give the
that was
viewers
called
the backstory. Right, I'm sorry,
Pontchartrain
Jim.
Beach. That was the original theme park there,
Mm,
and that closed. I think you're right. I think it closed in the '80s. We don't really touch on it too much because it doesn't have really much to do with the Jazzland Park.
right.
I believe it closed in the '80s. Someone's going to have to correct me on that though. But that closed. It was a very well-known theme park in the area. That closed, and there was sort of a vacuum of themed entertainment at New Orleans. So in the late '80s and early '90s, um, people were trying to find a development strategy to get a theme park built in the area because the closest theme park to people in New Orleans is either in Houston or Atlanta. So it's quite a significant drive and distance. So I believe in the early '90s, a man, God, I'm forgetting his name right now. But there
Yeah.
was a well-known developer in New Orleans, and he wanted to develop a theme park in the area.
Mm,
And I think he worked for a long time. I think he submitted his first proposal in like 1994 or something like that. And this was a massive theme park complex. They wanted to put a theme park, several hotels, a water park, a campground. This was an enormous project. And what ultimately happened is he never got his wish on that master plan, but the theme park was built. It was called Jazzland, and it was built by Broadmoor, and it opened in the early 2000s. And the theme park was it had mixed mixed reviews to it.
mhm,
It wasn't a Disneyland, it wasn't a Six Flags. It was a privately owned theme park company that had done it, and there's this whole bureaucracy with other companies wanting a piece, and Ogden Entertainment and all that. Regardless, all you need to know is that the Jazzland Park it didn't work out all that well. It was losing money for the first 2 years it was open, and they were in debt.
mm,
So by 2003, I believe it was 2003, Six Flags had stepped in and said, "We're going to buy it," because the Jazzland Corporation already had ties with Six Flags, and Six Flags had decided to buy the park. They invested, I think, around $30 million into it, building new attractions and all that. And it really is staggering. I mean, only 2.5 years later, Katrina came through and they had abandoned the park. And the park only opened, 5 years previous. So it was a relatively brand new theme park that was opened by the time Katrina came through in August of 2005. So, yeah, it's a pretty catastrophic failure just in terms of themed entertainment and how this park, ended up.
Well, through watching a lot of the previews of your movie and stuff that you put up, it seemed like Six Flags put, quite a bit of money into that
Yeah.
park when they bought it. So my thing was, and if you could answer this, you may know the answer, you may not. Why did Six Flags abandon this park, or was it more of the city that abandoned it?
Well, it was,
Was it both?
I guess you could say it was kind of both. I would definitely put the blame. We really try and take a partial view on both sides of the story in the film, but I think objectively you would say that Six Flags had decided to leave, but there's reasons why, right? Because Six Flags at the time was going through a bankruptcy, so Six Flags was already in financial trouble, and while the Six Flags New Orleans property was profitable for them, I think they were just they couldn't afford to rebuild the park. The insurance company had deemed the park to be a total loss. And at that point, Six Flags just wanted to cut their losses. They were going through a major bankruptcy. They had already demolished Astroworld in Houston. So they had wanted to cut their losses. They wanted to strip what they could out of the park and just leave. And they set a deal with the city where they would sell it back to the land back to the city, and they would just absolve their ownership because they did have a several-year lease on the property already. But they dissolved that once Six Flags decided to leave. They took a few roller coasters and cut their losses and left.
Do you feel like that they will, and you just spoke about, do you feel like they will build another park over there, or what do you think will come to? You talk to a lot of people, I'm sure, on the ground in that area where the park is around, people that worked at the park, people that know that land extremely well. So what was their opinion? And, from what you heard from them, what's your opinion on, what's going to go on with that such, huge amount of land?
Well, we talked to, so there's actually homes that border the south part of the property. They look actually directly onto the abandoned parking lot and then further onto the actual park. They obviously want it demolished because the developers at the very beginning had promised them that it was going to be like a Disneyland next to their home. It would increase their property value. And of course, after Katrina, now they just have an enormous abandoned theme park in their backyard, which is not, boding well for their.
All right. So let's get into this. We know the coronavirus is going on. It's affecting a lot of people financially, and it's affecting, as you talked about, with the city financially, because you said you thought they were going to knock down this park. Did it affect the filming in any way, shape, or form? And also, did it affect the release date? Because I know you're supposed to be releasing it in the fall.
Yeah.
Is that still going to happen? So how did the virus affect all this, the filming, the release date, whatever it may be?
Well, I will say this. Thank God we filmed it when we did. I picked a hell of a time to make the film, but I picked the proper time to film it. No, we filmed everything scot-free, and then I have some colleagues in Los Angeles. We brought all of our footage down there, and I worked with them for 2 different weeks. So the last week we worked with them was in February, I think. February or something. So we were skirting the line right where things were starting to pick up in the United States. And I actually got sick flying home from Los Angeles. I don't know what I had, but not a great moment to get a severe cold. But so that was thankfully done. The film is finished, but we're sort of in a weird moment where we don't know what to do with the film. My opinion is that we want to try and find a distributor as quick as possible and just release it now, rather than sort of waiting to see how the film festival circuit goes, later in the year, because who knows,
Can you tell the viewers a brief synopsis that don't know your channel about what you're going to be speaking about as far as River Country goes and with that abandoned water park?
Yeah, I'll make the bold claim that this video coming out tomorrow will be the most comprehensive and detailed, and perhaps showing some media that no one's ever seen before of River Country. It is I dove really deep into this one because River Country is such a it's sort of It's a thing that I've always been interested in. I mean, I have a piece of one of the rocks on my shelf there, so
Oh, wow.
I've always been very interested in it, and I think I did this. I think I did it justice in this episode. Yeah, I mean, if
What
people
made you
don't really,
interested in river country?
why do I have the interest in river country? I
Yeah.
mean, it was the first abandoned place I've ever sort of found interest. It's the first abandoned place that really piqued my interest. It's the whole reason why I started my show. It was all from a gentleman by the name of Adam the Woo. He made a video on it all the way
Yeah.
back in 2010. And I remember watching that. I was like enthralled. I was like, how is there an abandoned theme or water park in Walt Disney World? This is insane.
Right.
Um, so after doing all the research, it was just like so fascinating to me. And that that like fascination that I had is what I try to deliver with the show, because it's showing people a side of things that they never thought existed, and I think that's really quite fascinating to me. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. I've also been visiting it every year and making a video on it and just seeing the progression. And now it's obviously gone because of
Right.
the Reflections Resort. But
Right.
yeah, I think I've always had a weird fascination with it. Probably that most people shouldn't have, and I do.
A question from somebody that I know that does watch your videos besides
Mhm.
me. That I told him I was doing this video with you about you rather. They asked me to ask you, what is your favorite video that you ever did do? A topic, I
Oh
guess I
man,
should.
what's my favorite video? I'm gonna give you two. I'll give you two answers. I'll give you
Okay.
one is the documentary type show, and then one is the actual ones that I filmed. I have a ton. I have a lot of videos that I'm extremely proud of. I would say for abandoned or the shows, honestly, River Country is probably up there. I really like River Country. I think I did a pretty good job. But I would also say Mowgli's Palace or Treasure Cay, which was the Premier Cruise Line's cruise ship stop. That is one of the most obscure topics that anyone could ever talk about. And there was so much misinformation on that topic that I'm really quite proud of myself, and I actually had a team for that one, that we sort of clarified what it was and told the story of something that we didn't even think we were going to get to. We ended up talking to the CEO of that cruise line, Bruce Ehrenberg. And that was
Hmm.
such a great video. I love that one. That was one of the true videos where we taught everyone something they would have never learned about otherwise. So I like that kind of stuff. And for
Jake,
the
what was
sorry,
your
go ahead.
most viewed video?
Most viewed video is the Costa Concordia right now.
Oh,
The
wow.
story of the Costa Concordia that has like 10.5 million views or something. That's
Wow,
yeah, it's
that's
exploded.
incredible.
But that's also another really good one where I sort of talk about something that people sort of had passing knowledge of, the Costa Concordia, but it's I sort of broke it down even more than like news reports at the time. No one really thinks so. I think I cover that pretty well, and hopefully the views sort of reflect that mindset too.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to check it out. Well, as we end the interview with Jake Williams and it's Bright Sun Films, can you tell the viewers rather where they can find more about you, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, you can just search up on Google Bright Sun Films on Google or YouTube. You'll be taken right to it. Or you could just type in "abandoned" on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I'll be one of the top search results. So just look for the yellow guy. That'll be me.
And definitely everybody that's listening, definitely check out his new film out. And I know if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the poster behind them.
Yeah.
And so definitely look it up. And it is closed for storm, and hopefully it'll come out soon. Jake Williams, thanks so much for coming on the program. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate it, and yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.